So welcome to the Seven Figure Builder Show. My name is Julie Baranek, founder of Seven Figure Builder, where we help high-achieving CEOs connect with their dream clients to scale to seven figures and beyond. And I'm here today with my friend Rhami. Hey, Rhami.
Hey, Julie, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to chat today.
Yeah, me too.
So first and foremost, where in the world are you?
I'm in Montreal, Canada.
Nice. You're just north of me.
Yeah. I moved here in February.
Very cool. It's beautiful up there. I love that city.
Yeah, one of my favorites.
Awesome. And for people that haven't had the pleasure to meet you yet, can you tell us just a bit about what you do with your business?
Yeah, sure. So I run Arch Web Design, Julie. It's a marketing agency that helps SaaS companies scale. So we specialize in things like high converting websites and lead generation.
Awesome. And has this always been your area of expertise, or tell us a bit about your journey of how you got here?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of the agency, we're 4 years old. And so I guess since then, it's been my area of expertise. I've always been into web design and UX design. That's kind of my background. And I was able to turn that into an agency. The agency started in March 2020, which is
Craziness.
ominous date. Yeah. Uh, we're all aware of that. So that's when the agency started. And yeah, we've just been growing since then.
Awesome. Awesome. So do you help people like from scratch with their websites or redo them or all the above?
Yeah, we typically help from scratch. We find typically it's a lot easier to do it from scratch than to try to build on top of an existing website that may not have the proper foundation. There's a lot of research and thought that goes into the foundation of a website, and so uh, typically building from scratch is where we see the best results.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I'm taken back. That's actually where I started my career in the tech world was, back in Dreamweaver land of building tables and
Yeah,
everything else.
yeah, I
Started in
remember. Yeah.
2004. It's changed a heck of a lot in those years ever since then. But do you have like a particular platform that you focus on, or you kind of help people in a variety of different ways?
Yeah, so in terms of development platform, we use Webflow. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. Yeah, so Webflow is an awesome tool. It's only about 7 or 8 years old, so it's relatively young,
Mhm.
but we believe in it big time. It has a lot of advantages. I'm not going to get into like a Webflow commercial here, but we strongly believe it's the best platform out there if you're building a marketing website.
Nice. I
Hmm.
love it.
Yeah.
And you mentioned conversion rates, which are huge, and that's kind of the tail end of what you're building out, but it's the goal, right? So like I love to begin with the end in mind and kind of work backwards to it. But what do you recommend for people for if they feel like they're not, they have this great website or maybe not a great website, but it's not converting? Like where should they look? What should they do to help with that?
Yeah, great question. So I could talk for hours about this. I'll give you guys like the top three tips that we usually give our clients. It's low hanging fruit basically. I think anyone can apply it. Now the cool thing with conversion rate optimization, like that's what we really specialize in, is making websites that convert very highly. And it doesn't apply just to SaaS companies. So this could apply across a variety of industries. So these tips that I'm going to share. So the number one thing that we see is just the offer in your homepage hero section. Okay, so the hero section is the first section you see on the homepage when you load it up. Now, usually the heading here that we see, that's your offer. It's usually really vanilla and boring. Okay, so this is the first thing you can take a look at that you can spice up to really increase your conversion rate here. Now, it's you can try different things and just guess, but it's really important that you do market research here to really understand the needs and concerns and desires of your users, because then you can better speak to them. So if you know what your user wants, you can tell them, here's what we do. Like I'll give you a simple example. So let's say you're a CRM. Okay. So the smart, simple online CRM, that's a heading we've seen before. And okay, cool. Like it tells me you're a CRM, but I could probably, gather that from, just scrolling on the website. Now, would you buy that, or would you buy something like, triple your revenue and automate your sales pipeline in 3 easy steps? Sign up for free for 30 days, no credit card required. Like which one of those two is more appealing? Probably the second one, right?
Right.
So So there's basically like a framework that we've developed to develop what we call a killer offer. Okay. So it's actually outlined in the example I gave. So the first part is a desired outcome. So again, what do your users want? So for example, triple your revenue and automate your sales pipeline. Okay, that's step one. The second one is a level of effort or time frame. So do this in 3 easy steps. And then the last one is some sort of a power guarantee. So how do you guarantee the results? So, sign up for free for 30 days, no credit card required. So basically there's no risk on your end. If you try it, you don't like it, you can just get rid of it. So that's the first tip that I would give. The second tip that I would give is to provide solutions and not features. Now, this may or may not apply to your business. It applies to most businesses, but I think a lot of people understand this. Like, you want to know what your benefits are versus just the features. So let's say you're buying an iPhone. You don't really care that it has a 12 megapixel front camera, right? You care that it takes awesome selfies that make you look good. So that's kind of the idea there. So like a quick way to action this on your website is to, first of all, change your messaging to highlight the benefits, not the features. And then what you want to do is, if you have features pages, turn those into solutions pages. So now people can browse and see what the solutions are, and this typically leads to higher conversion rates. And then just a last thing that I'll share here, and like I said, I could go on and on about this. Just above the fold on your homepage hero section, you want to have three things. So number one, the killer offer, like I mentioned. Number two, you want to have two calls to action. Okay. So the first one will be right underneath your offer. And then the second one will be in the top right in your nav bar. So this is common. Most people already have this, but you don't want to complicate it or have more than that, or have, 3 or 4 calls to action, because then that'll just decrease the conversion rate. And then finally, in your hero section, you want to have some sort of social proof. So like logos of clients you've worked with, testimonials, things like that. Because 69% of users will actually not scroll past the first section that loads up on the homepage, which is your hero section.
Right. And if they're on mobile, you have even less than that, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So how long do you have their attention? Like, what are the most recent stats of how long do you have their attention before they fly off somewhere else and you've lost them?
Yeah, good question. I don't know the exact number. It's not a lot. I think it's somewhere in the 6 to 10 second range, which is not really a lot of time if you think about it. So that's why you really want that killer offer to be compelling, and you want to have those items above the fold, because that will just increase the chances of you retaining them, or at least having them scroll down and visit more parts of the website.
Yeah. And, to the things you mentioned, a confused mind never buys, right? So
Yes.
I think it's critical that we are able to take a step back from our website. Like, we're so close to it that we know the details, we know what we mean, and we use our own language. Like, we don't use the same language that the client uses necessarily. But to take that step back and take that 2-second look, glance top to bottom of your whole site, and do you know what you do? Right? Like,
Yeah.
sometimes, do you know what you do? Do you know what you get? And do you know why you care? Right? And having that very clearly laid out on your site makes a huge impact. And I love those tips. They're really awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. So do you recommend more the website approach or more the funnel approach? I'm sure that's a loaded question, but what do you recommend, and what do you see works the best for people?
I mean, both, I would say. I think any legitimate product needs a website these days. Like, if you don't have a website, most people are not going to take you seriously. And that's not just because we have a web design agency. I actually believe that. Because if you think about it, when you buy something, if you're buying something, especially that's high ticket, you're gonna want to investigate it before, you make a purchasing decision. So of course you're going to go on the website and, see what it's all about. Yes, you also do want funnels, like depending on the lead gen that you do, like especially if you're on paid ads, of course, you're going to have some sort of a funnel in there. Like, for example, some funnels that work specifically for SaaS companies are webinars or book a demo funnels. And then in general, not just SaaS related, leading with value typically does well for most businesses that we've seen. So it's kind of like the idea of you meet a girl on the street, you're not going to ask her to marry you right away. You're going to ask her to, I mean, you could, probably won't work, right? Most of the time won't work, I'd say. So you want to lead with value. That's kind of like asking her on a date first before you ask her hand in marriage. So leading with value just makes people trust you more, and then helps them to get into your ecosystem and start consuming more of your content, which helps, get the sale for you.
For sure. And what other gaps do you see people that they don't have on their website, like, testimonials page or contact? Like, what are the things that you feel like people are missing? And those are not the best examples, but
Yeah,
what do you
no.
see that people are missing?
Yeah, for sure. So one thing we see is not something you can actually see, but it's tracking your analytics. So seeing where users are going, where they're dropping off, and kind of tracking your conversion rates, those kind of things. Because basically the more data you have, the better you can improve it. So setting up, like GTM, which is like Google Tag Manager, Google Analytics, heat mapping software, screen recorders, things like that just gives you more data to see what people are doing on your website. Because you can guess all day, this page is going to work, but if you don't have data to track it and see where people are dropping off, then it'll be harder for you to fix it.
Yeah. So can we talk about that a minute? Because I think that's
Sure.
something that most people don't really even know exists.
Mm-hmm.
The heat mapping software and the recording software. And I totally geek out with data. Like, I love having those recorders on my own sites. And, there are lots of benefits to it, not just the UX, UI, seeing where people are dropping off. I love it for QA so that I'm seeing my users, the clients going through my site live. But like, let's break that down a little bit to explain it to people of what that actually is.
Yeah, for sure. So we can start with a screen recorder, which I think is probably the most useful. So a screen recorder is just that. So you can see what users are doing on your website. So you can see where their mouse is, where they're clicking, and most importantly, where they're dropping off or exiting the website. So based on that information, you can improve the user experience, the design, maybe change the copy or the messaging, move things around. Because like, for example, a common one is, let's say you're an e-commerce store. What's the number one thing you want them to do is buy, right? So buy your product. Now, you'd be surprised. There's a lot of e-commerce stores that make it hard for you to buy the product. So screen recorders can help you see, what the user is trying to do. And if they get confused, you can fix that for them. So that's like one common example. So screen recording software is super useful. Heat maps, for those that don't know, heat maps basically show where people's eyes are and basically where people's eyes are going on a specific web page. So, for example, let's say again, you're on the homepage, you're on the hero section. Now you want the user's eyes to go to two places. Number one, the heading or your killer offer, and then number two, to the calls to action. So a good heat map will show a lot of heat to those two places. Okay. Now, if that heat map is not ideal, or you're seeing it kind of spread out throughout the page, then that's a cue for you to fix the design in order to make the heat map more ideal. Does that make sense?
100%. And it also, to that, will show where people are scrolling, how far down the page they'll scroll, and what they're clicking on. So you can see exactly the concentration of, are they hitting a CTA, or do they think an image is a CTA and it's not a button and you're losing people, right? Like, you're losing them in the journey. Yeah,
exactly. Great point. So it's helpful for there. And then the other things like tracking tools like Google Analytics and all those tools, or what they do is you can set up different conversions events, among other things. So basically a conversions event is whatever you want it to be. So if you're an e-commerce store, it could be like a buy button. If you're trying to book demos, then it could be, the book demo button. So you set up those conversion events, and then you can kind of track the conversion rate from a certain web page. And then obviously you want them to be within a certain range. If it's lower than that range, then okay, you want to look at that and see why it's so low. And then on the other side, if you see something that's super high, a high conversion rate, then you can take that as a good example of what to do to fix the other pages on your website, or get some more detailed information on why that is working and kind of use that.
Awesome. And are there particular tools that you would recommend for people to check out, or low-hanging fruit, like you mentioned, that would be easy for people to add on to their world?
Yeah, honestly, like to keep it super simple, the three, like the holy trinity, we recommend to beginners. Number one, Google Analytics. Number two, Microsoft Clarity, which is a heat map software. It's completely free. So you can actually do heat mapping and screen recording on that. So those are actually two softwares that you use for the three use cases there that we mentioned.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
yeah, just start with that. Don't do anything crazy until you're more advanced.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can actually map out with a lot of those, the funnels, right? Like the different cadence of pages. So people can see like the drop-off rates between those different pages and where people are going and how far they're making it down your pathway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you've done all this. It's I love hearing when I hear people that are into it.
Yeah. I geek out with a lot of this stuff. So
Yeah. I love it.
Do you recommend people doing A/B testing, or do they oftentimes get lost in that matrix of, possibilities?
Yeah, A/B testing is a tough one. It's obviously very useful if you do it properly. Doing it properly is difficult because when you're A/B testing, like you said, you can A/B test a million different things on every page. So when we work with clients, like we of course have a very specific framework that we follow, and we know what levers to pull that will be the highest leverage based on our years of experience. But if you're trying to do it yourself and you're just getting started, I would recommend a few things. So the first thing is, of course, only A/B test one thing at a time on each page. So just let's say you want to start with the copy on the killer offer section. So test out maybe two different killer offers on your homepage hero section, see whichever one wins, and then pick that one and then keep testing it until you're happy with the conversion rate there. And then once you're done, then you can test out something else. So the killer offer is high leverage typically. So test out a few different offers, see whichever one wins and use that. The cool thing with that is you can also use that for your marketing material. So if you're doing any lead gen campaigns, cold email, whatever, you can take that winning offer and then use it for your other marketing material. So that is the first thing I would recommend getting started with. The second one would be the copy on the call to action button. So this one is, might sound very generic, like book a call or, free 30-minute consultation, but those things make a big impact. So I would recommend that the A/B test the copy on the call to action. Secondly, I would get started with those two. The other ones, those are like the two that we always recommend. The other ones are more custom, depends on what you do and what your website looks like. But I would say those two alone will increase your conversion rates tremendously if you just keep tweaking them.
Nice. And for those CTAs, do you recommend that they're like the same all the way down the page, or do you recommend like different variations of button copy, for example? What do you find works the best?
So this one we've tested a lot. It really depends on the business. To keep it simple, I would keep it the same throughout the page.
Nice.
We haven't seen that much of an increase in conversion rate in tweaking the copy or in having different copy to recommend otherwise. So just to keep it simple, keep the copy the same on all calls to action.
Right. Keep beating the drum on that same message.
Yeah, exactly. and that just makes your A/B testing easier because you change the copy on one button, it'll change on all of them, and then it'll just be easier for everyone.
Nice. And as people are testing or trying to figure out what's working, is there a certain amount of time or volume that you would recommend people have before they make a decision?
Yeah. We typically don't recommend to do A/B testing if you're getting less than 5 to 10K visits per month. So if you're getting less than that, I would work on getting traffic before you do any A/B testing campaigns. And then we recommend to run the A/B test for the longer you can, the better, but at least two to 3 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's important to have enough data to actually make a decision because you tend to get trigger happy. Like I see a lift and I just want to go that way,
Yeah. But also like the easiest cadence to follow is the 1 month cadence typically. So if you're just starting out and you don't have that many resources to put into it, I would just keep it a 1 month cadence. test it out every month, and then switch it.
Yeah. Yeah. And to what you mentioned before, that's really important of like test one thing at a time, because
Yeah,
otherwise
yeah, or
you don't know
else.
what actually changed.
Exactly, exactly. And that's why conversion rate optimization is such a lengthy process, because you can imagine you're testing a couple things per month, let's say. Um, there's a lot that goes into it, and there's so many things you can test.
Yeah. And a lot of strategy behind it instead of
Yeah.
just randomness. Yeah,
Yeah, just be patient. It's the number one thing.
for sure. And you mentioned traffic. Like, are there specific pathways that you recommend for people to pump more traffic into their sites?
That's a tough one. That's a very customized answer there. There's always the typical ones. It depends where you are. If you have the money and you need traffic soon or fast, like for example, if you're a SaaS company and your runway's running out, you need traffic fast. So paid ads would be the best source for you because you can get that traffic quickly. I always recommend, no matter what kind of business you have, to invest in your SEO early. SEO, I think, is the best sort of traffic you can get, and the best marketing strategy any business can have. And it is what they say. So everyone tells you, SEO is a long-term game, right? And it definitely is. It's not just, people trying to screw you over from the agency world. It's definitely a long-term game. It takes time. It's like a snowball. It starts out very small, but you keep consistently putting effort into it. Eventually it'll become a huge boulder, and you'll be super glad in 2 years from now that you started your SEO campaigns.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you mentioned, it tends to build on itself. So the
Yeah.
more, as you start making that impact, it'll continue to scale up with that, which is really cool.
Yeah. The other thing I would recommend again, first, if you're a smaller or medium-sized business, I think having an email newsletter and just like growing that list, it's not sexy either, but it's super valuable, and that's the best kind of, again, like audience you can have. They're more of a warm audience. So that is something else that I recommend. Cold emails as well, they work. Cold emails are good. They're low cost. It's a very low conversion rate for cold emails. If you've ever tried it, it's just a numbers game, but it's a very low cost option as well. So it really depends on what stage you are in the business, how much your marketing budget is, and what you're trying to sell. But those are some things I would always start with SEO though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And as people are looking at their journey and trying to optimize it, what are some tips or suggestions that you have for them, or missing gaps that you see people are missing in that whole end-to-end journey?
Which journey exactly, Julie?
The customer journey is what I'm thinking
Customer
of in
journey?
particular. Like, you're
Yeah.
optimizing specific conversion rates, but ultimately you need a strategy behind it, right?
Yeah. Well, that's a great point, actually. So you can get as many leads as you want, but if you don't have that nurture process or that follow-up process to support the user on their entire journey, then it's going to fall by the wayside. So you mentioned use Go High Level. We use that as well for our CRM. So setting up, those automated email sequences in the CRM, also super helpful, and just, helps you because basically the money is in the follow-ups. How many times have you, clicked on a product and then, you saw them like, oh, you got distracted or something happened and you didn't buy it, or, you didn't download the lead magnet or whatever. And then maybe a week later, you got an email like, oh yeah, I remember this. And then you were reactivated. So definitely having a set follow-up process in place is important. And it doesn't have to be anything complicated. Just send like a reminder email, just have like a 4 to 5 step email sequence. Just reminding them of who you are, because it's a very distractible world out there, and you want to be in front of it.
Yeah, for sure. I know we often feel redundant and like having to remind people or feel like a pain trying to connect with people over and over. But the reality, like you mentioned, is we're pulled in a million directions all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
We need that reminder of, oh yeah, I was going to do that thing and I just got distracted. So
Yeah, for sure. Like even right now, if you go on your phone, you're like, sometimes I go on my phone and I'm like, oh, I want to like message my mom or something. And then I see I have like 4 notifications and then I check them and then I forget to message my mom.
Yeah. Oh my
It's
goodness.
that same
Yeah.
idea.
It does. It does. I
Yeah,
know. I did that. I was looking for something on my calendar and got distracted by 8 other things. I'm like, oh wait, I needed to check my calendar. That was the reason I picked up the phone.
exactly. Yeah.
So you've accomplished a ton across your career and your business over the years. Like, how do you define success? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, that's a great question, Julie. So I've changed my definition of that in the past year or so. So last August, I went through a breakup, and that really kind of made me reevaluate my priorities in life. Whereas before, when I started my agency, I cared about revenue. I'm like, okay, I want to hit, this amount per month. And then I hit that, then I wanted more. And then I kept wanting more and more and more. And I was never satisfied. I was never happy. And I just kind of became this like robot. All I cared about was work and I was obsessed with it. I was very selfish and I wasn't, paying attention to the things that mattered most. So for me now, I've kind of shifted my priorities. So before it was business, like that's all I cared about. And well, not all, but it was my number one. And then everything else came second. Now it's not like that. So now number one is, my family and friends, the people that I care about most. So that's my number one priority. And then everything else can come after that. It doesn't matter. Like sometimes depends on the season. Usually, my business is number two or number three. But yeah, basically to answer your message or your question, I think what is success to me? That is something that is changing and I'm reevaluating. But I think that it has more to do with helping other people and then the connections that I do have with, my family and friends and nurturing those and just trying to, be as unselfish as possible and try to help others as much as I can. To me, that's success. And I don't know how to directly measure it, but, it's better than, a certain revenue goal. Like, money comes and goes. At the end of the day, it's, who you help that matters, I think.
For sure. And those relationships, both, your family, your friends, which you mentioned are so critical and then
Mm.
all of them outside of that. So absolutely.
Yeah.
And what can people expect from you next? I know you've got amazing things happening in your business, but any teasers or anything you can share with us?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm actually working on my next business right now. It's in the ideation phase, but it's going to be something completely different, nothing to do with marketing or like technology or anything like that. Basically, what I want to do, to my point previously, Julie, is after that breakup, reevaluated a lot of things, and I realized I was being very selfish, and didn't really feel a sense of purpose or fulfillment necessarily with what I was doing. So I've been searching for that for the past year or so. And basically where I am at now is like I said, I want to help people as much as I can. Who am I going to help? I want to help people who are, they feel stuck. They're like on autopilot. They're not achieving their full potential or living their dreams necessarily. So those are the kinds of people I want to help. And basically, help people find their purpose, their passion, and feel fulfilled in life again, and not just, go through every day on autopilot, like go to work, come home, go to work, come home. Like feel like they're really living up to their potential and, just being happy. Like I want to help people, live more happy lives in general. So that's where I'm at now. I know it's not super specific, but again, it's still like being figured out. And it's been a really cool process. Like I've been working with a purpose coach for the past year. He's really helped me, get to this level. And a lot of it just has to do with like working on yourself as well, like getting to that point where you can help those people because it takes a lot to be able to help others. So just making sure, I figured things out on my end before I, try to help others.
I love that. And
Mhm.
it's, raises the point of in our most painful situations can come out something pretty awesome, right? Like it sounds like you've gotten renewed focus in your business, your personal life, and now this new business idea, which is very exciting. And I'm excited to hear as it materializes over the next, months and years to come. So, but it can shift our trajectory in
Yeah.
more ways than one, right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Like my biggest lessons have come from my worst situations or or tragedies, you could say.
100%. Yeah.
Mhm.
We don't
Mhm.
grow when we're comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So to that point, if you had the attention of the whole world for 5 minutes, what would you tell them?
Oh, that's a good question. If I had the attention of the whole world for 5 minutes, I would tell them to really spend time figuring out what it is that they want and what their dreams are and try to achieve that. I feel like a lot of people are just so busy distracting themselves with work or their phones or, whatever, that they don't really spend time being self-reflective and just, journal or meditate or pray, whatever that looks like for you. Just spend time really understanding who you are and what you want, and then trying to go out there and get it. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, you're not helping the world by living small. You're not helping the world by just being complacent and not fulfilling your potential or not being happy. You're not shining your light in that sense. So don't be afraid to, sit with yourself. Might be uncomfortable at first, but you'll learn a lot about yourself, and then that will, translate to finding more purpose and direction, which, will most likely help other people. I really believe that everyone's purpose is tied to helping others in some way, could come in a million different forms. But once you find that purpose, you can shine your light, and then that light shines on everyone else. And then you make everyone else's life brighter.
I love that. I love that. And that's a continual process, right? Like,
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
sure for you doing that 2 years ago versus now, they look completely different, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a daily process, like self-reflection and, just working on yourself so that you can help others.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And for me
Yeah.
as well, like, not, not to shine it on you, but yeah, we all are a continual process. And that's, yeah, something I'm constantly reassessing in my own world is, what does that path look like and what should it look like,
Yeah. I'm curious, Julie, what does your self-reflection process look like? Do you have one?
I do,
Yeah,
and
of
it's always a work in progress,
course.
the process itself. But yeah, my biggest thinking time, that quiet self-reflection for me tends to be on the road. And my husband and I do a lot of traveling, and we drive two vehicles because we have a camper and a boat, and like we
Mm.
have a caravan that we take. So I have a lot of time to think when we're doing that because they tend to be longer trips. So I do a lot of just lengthy self-reflection at that point, both business-wise, personal-wise, and even just as I'm driving in the car, that tends to be a good time for me to just, kind of reflect on whatever it is going in my world and how I need to refine it. But that tends to be my easiest time to do it, where I don't get focused and pulled onto other things.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great time to do it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Awesome. So how can listeners support you in your work? How can they find more about your new journey and work with you on your current journey?
Yeah, sure, Julie. So if you wanna follow me on my personal journey and the new business, you can add me on Instagram. I'll give you the link in the show notes there.
Yep.
And then also, if you want some more information, I this jam packed with tips, just like the ones I shared today, and a ton more. So feel free to download that. It's completely free, and it's probably one of the best pieces of content we've put out since we started.
That's awesome. Yeah. And we'll have the
Yeah.
links to your social media, your website, your lead, everything on the website. So they will be able to check that out and come follow you and find more information about you. But this is awesome. Thank you, Rami. This has been a lot of fun.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Julie. I really appreciate it. I had a lot of fun, and yeah, I hope we were able to give some value to everyone out here.
Definitely. And if you found value in this episode, please do share it. That's how people find us. And you can find me at sevenfigurebuilder.com. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.